Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Grassroots to Gains, a Southern Hustle. It's the show where we dig into the stories of people, those who are changing the game from the ground up. Whether it's a market stall, a village startup, or even taking your well-deserved seat at the head of a major organization, this is where we uncover the grit, the lessons, and the bold ideas that move communities forward. Now, that brings us to today's guest, and one who's a little bit different from most. They don't just run a side hustle, a business, a music channel. They have a more important role than that. They're the ones that are helping to shape the future of an entire generation of entrepreneurs in Eswatini. We're talking politics, we're talking policy, we're talking contacts. We're talking to the Vice President of the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a leader at the heart of youth-led growth, innovation and opportunity in the country. And here's the thing. This isn't a from the top down story. Look, this is actually somebody who's walked the path themselves, somebody who's faced hurdles and challenges and knows the mindset of the young business people that are living through all the tough times in the country. From the first spark of an idea, to finding investment, to surviving in a sometimes unpredictable political and economic climate, our guest has been through it, is going through it, and is pushing through to help you guys basically lead the charge going forward. Today we're going to dig into why youth leadership matters so much in a nation like Eswatini. What role does digital innovation play in the country? And what real practical steps exist for anyone looking to build something of their own? We're also going to be tackling some really tough questions along the way. And I think one of the most pertinent ones we're going to ask is, what exactly is holding our young people back, and how do we go about changing that? And of course, because this is Grassroots to Gains, well, we want to know a bit more about the person behind the title, from their wildest dream projects to the songs they might or might not admit to singing in the shower. So whether you're hustling from your kitchen table, looking to lead the next big startup, or you're just somebody that's curious about the future of what business looks like in Eswatini, well, stay tuned. This is going to be a big one. Grassroots to Gains, a Southern Hustle. Let's get into it. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Grassroots to Gains. I'm your host, Chris Twala. I'm here with Bonke Motsa. He's the Vice President of the Youth Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We're so very fortunate to have him today because he's a reputable voice in the country, and we are going to hopefully get a feel for his opinion on the state of the economy. We are going to sort of explore his life journey, and we're going to sort of take practical advice and information from him for how young people can essentially get themselves in a much more better position going forward in life. Bonke, thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing, my friend? You okay today?
Thank you, Chris, for having me. Morning this side of the world to the listeners. Thank you very much for having me.
No, I'm really happy to have that. Look, we'll dive straight in because I don't want to waste too much of your time, and I just want to give the listeners to appreciate exactly all the topics we're going to be discussing today. So as we normally do with a lot of shows and podcasts like this, what we try to do is essentially we try to get the guests to give us a rough idea of who they are, give us a feel for their own motivations, their own sort of like general journey with regards to what the positions they've got now. So I wanted to start my first question by asking you if you can give us a bit of a flavor of what your own entrepreneurial or leadership journey has been like up until this point. I know obviously you're with the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry now, but were you doing something else before then? Or did you just naturally evolve into this role? I mean, if you can give us a bit of a sense of what you've been up to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. You know, it's been, I would say this journey started 2016, okay. So it's almost like a decade now. I'm turning 33 this year, okay. So I would say I spent most of my 20s on this journey. So initially what had happened is that as an African, just understanding, or just even get to a point where you can start conceptualizing that how can we make Africa a better place?
Okay.
Not just for myself, but for everyone. And I started to see that let's look at where the world is moving towards. Let's look at Dubai. Let's look at Paris. Let's look at New York.
Yes.
Why is the world saying these people are successful? Why is the world going there to invest their money? Why are they not coming to Swaziland, for example, Manzini, to invest their money? Right? Yeah. So to see that we have to be intelligent. That's like it started to dawn on me and just my colleagues that first of all, we have to know more. Okay. About our environment, about just economics, about money, about financial literacy. But I think the whole baseline was just making sure my character is sort of stabilized around philosophy. Okay. And then from there, we started to get to understand our environment geographically. I'm from Manzini. I'm under a municipality, but we have a national government, right? So these are a mini government that I'm dealing with here, but there's a mayor, there's a CEO, there are dynamics here. And how I know the other places that I've known is through the cities, really, through the country. So that also dawned on me that this is where development is supposed to actually, and this is where it can be monitored. This is where we can improve our people's lives using this sort of system called a town. Okay. Now, we started to, of course, I think entrepreneurship has always been my sort of, passion from, I think that's what I studied. Mm-hmm. And I think the economics also got me in high school as well. I wanted to deal with numbers, but in a much more meaningful way, yeah. Which is money. And then me and my business partner, we started the first company, I think, around the same 2018. We started an IT company called Tulo. So it's a streaming site that hostly only local music. I think we were too ahead of our time by then. There was I think we were too ahead of our time because I think by then there was no science park. The ICT ministry wasn't fully functioning. There was you couldn't pay for e-commerce. So because how are you going to monetize the platform? But I think with that type of initiative, that's where we started to enter the different spaces that we're in now. So a lot of these people that know us when we were still just a young boy, about 23 years, 22, when we were just entering the space. Yeah. So also we started another company called Agripex, where we package rice, meal, cooking oil. Even then, it's because of just going back to the same principle of studying your environment. Because we have a philosophy of believing that a business is a solution to a social problem.
It's actually quite interesting, the fact that you've actually started quite a number of different things. I find it quite fascinating. You've gone from a music streaming service to obviously you started developing an agri-business, and now you've obviously evolved to this point. But there's a lot of consistency with the fact that you are interested in developing like sort of the country and obviously focusing on the finances. I'm curious, you said something interesting just now about the fact that your IT music streaming services was ahead of its time. Are you able to elaborate a bit more on that? Was that because there wasn't much was there not much internet infrastructure in the country? You made a comment about the lack of e-commerce sort of paying facilities. Is that something that the country is actively working on now? Or is that something that you as a service might have, in hindsight, provided a bit better for your customers?
I think now it's fertile. Okay. I think we have all the policies and legislation on just being enacted. I think we were just me personally, I've been involved in the e-commerce act itself. Was part of the workshop validation, just to make sure that everything there is actually what we need as a stakeholder. And of course, we have the RSTI department inside the Ministry of ICT, which is the research innovation. It's the actual department that's responsible for even RSTB, which is the Real Technology Science Park, the science park itself. It's the place that startups are supposed to come through and get them enrolled, let them know about what they're doing much more better in a business context. Okay. And then let them spread out to the real world now. So it's a sort of startup sort of place, but at different sort of facilities there. Just that it's a section, the incubation one. Right? Okay.
No problem. Is that to say that after you went from the agribusiness, you obviously got influence from this particular organization, then you went into the youth chamber? I'm just trying to think about how you naturally evolved into the position you are now.
Initially, we have our own organization called I'm an African. 2016, we were already registered. So initially, we were just because we had already seen the structure of how the municipality works, or not even seen because then we were just starting out. So I would think this is when the idea was turning on us that even before we're trying to think that we can help everyone nationally, can we get us to a scope that we can actually get data for, use research that we can actually, especially, secondary data. So the municipality has all the information that you need for you at least to get a project running and actually calculate the impacts, right?
Okay.
So especially in the country, because it's only now that the two systems are being that government trying to merge them together, which is the traditional system, and then the municipality one, which is urban government. So those two ministries are working together so that the urban government director who's in charge of the municipalities and the decentralization director who's now supposed to see how the government policies now are driven down to context of the people, but now using the municipality, but also using the traditional structures, which is the chiefs and the MPs and the Inkul. There are already two payment gateways that can be used. I think FNB has one. I know there's another one, but also a central bank is also trying to reevaluate its, because also when it comes to, I think when it comes to ICT, there's also the fintech space. I think I saw you mentioned it in part of the questions that you were actually initially going to ask. So there's always been that our central bank has always been overly regulated. That also, has made also FDI shine away from the country, especially in that sort of sector. So now also our governor at the central bank has been trying to work on their internal policies. I think there will be a fintech company, but also there will be another bank that will be joining the banks that are already, the commercial banks that are already in the country for competition. The issue that was always been there, that I've also realized, hopefully I'm not jumping the gun, is the fact that, the country when it comes to policies, it's just policies when you from an eagle eye view, we have great policies. If you can read what we actually mean to do and mean to create to make the country better, fantastic. But it's always been now how's the funding structure for the project and how are we going to M&E it. So that's always been the issue when it comes to government, but also of our reliance to government also be an issue. I think also this is something we've been preaching also as youth chamber. Government is supposed to come support what we actually have conceptualized, not that we are looking for government to help us when we have nothing to offer.
That's fair. I'm just curious. Sorry, Mr. Motsa. It's like, how did you actually get into the role? I'm just curious. Was it like a process of you applied for the position? Did you get headhunted and recruited because of your experience of, creating your initial sort of music streaming services, your agribusiness? I'm just curious how you actually became the VP as opposed to just randomly just going from IT, agribusiness to now all of a sudden being a representative of the chambers. I don't know if you can give us an idea of your journey there.
Yes. So when our organization, I'm an African, sort of central around also African development. So initially, what we did is we started to create this concept of creative meetups, because this is after, if I'm not mistaken, this is before COVID.
Okay.
Before COVID, we started to do these things called creative meetups.
Yeah.
We're just paying for whether we're given the venue for free or we organize the venue. We just use the municipalities in the corridor, Manzini, Babane, Ezuluini, and Matapa.
Yeah.
So those are the four ones that we initially were mobilizing, but then we're just trying to meet up with the different youth that are also like us interested in business.
Yes.
Just showing them different structures of how they can conceptualize business, how, just sharing information. But of course, of that philosophical background, we are really good in understanding how to communicate with the youth and ideas and how to incentivize them, right?
Okay. Did you have any formal training with regards to being able to to sort of give the youth and give other sort of like-minded business people the information and advice. I'm just curious, because you mentioned earlier when you were saying that you essentially did high school economics, you obviously started your business. Did you have to do any further learning, or was that just something that you decided as a collective, we're going to create a meetup group, we're going to swap ideas? Was that just more organic, or did you have to have some sort of like qualifications behind you to back up exactly what you were saying and the advice you were giving to other people?
No, not even formal education, because I did my tertiary. I studied business and globalization, so business management.
Cool.
But I think it's just that's prior to 2016. That's why I said after 2016, that's when now it's the reality of unemployment. Now it's like I thought I knew. I thought now I have this. I have this associate degree now. How can I? Like, I can only get a job. What? This is not.
Yeah.
This is not what I expected.
Yeah.
I can't drive. Won't be able to drive a nice car with this thing that they're telling me about.
Yeah.
And it started, and that is before philosophy. It's just thinking that I won't be able to live the lifestyle that I envisioned.
Yeah.
So now it dawned on me, which I actually don't know. And for me as a young man, to realize that, I think that was the changing gear. When that, this is when this is unemployment is hitting you after internship.
Yes.
Now your parents are not giving you money anymore.
No more allowance.
Now you can't make a lie about a book missing in university. You know. Now it's like they're looking at me. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So now even your heroes, you start to see them like, hey, this is where they end.
Yeah.
This is where they are whole. I understand that my parents also. That's where we're trying to also let the youth know that once you pass 21, you have to be able to also be able to understand. At some point, you're the one that's supposed to try and manage some of the things in the family, because for you to rely on other people, it doesn't make sense. So that change in gear started me. So by the time I met a friend who was already dabbling in philosophy.
Okay.
I was ready to chow those books like. So because I knew there's a gap I'm trying to fill.
Yes.
I just didn't know it would take me that long. Okay. I just thought that after year 2, I'm uninformed.
Yeah.
After year 2, I can be a millionaire. While I was wrong, because I was just dealing with my own character. Then I hadn't started dealing with the environment.
Yes.
Because I think the reading was with the different startups, right? The music sites and the agri-packs. Yes. We're reading and meeting people then. So we started to, even then when you meet different people trying to pitch, trying to see how the entrepreneurs are pitching their ideas. You reevaluate your skills. You start to see, hey, I'm starting to be much more proficient in this. They're starting to, like our product, we're starting to be invited when the certain director or the certain minister is coming through. Yeah. But then we're still on the come up. We haven't heard about you, Chamber. We're still pushing an African meeting, also the different, because with philosophy, it gets to a point where you want to share. The creative meetups were coming from that end, that we started to see that life is complicated than we even ever imagined. So without conceptualizing our lives from a spiritual point of view down to physical, we'll never be able to retrace our steps as Black people and now move forward to the clear path, not a clear path of revenge, but a clear path of bettering ourselves. I think a better Africa, the world will be rich.
Okay. No, listen, that was quite inspiring, actually. I love the humble approach that you took. I do like the fact that you mentioned earlier was the fact that you were like, hey, I'm unemployed now. I need to find something to get out of the house and keep myself sort of like busy and with money. I think that's one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the people that I've spoken to is the idea that necessity is the thing that's essentially driving them. It's not necessarily that a lot of people in the country have rich parents that can sort of like pay for their lifestyle. But at the same time, it's obviously, as you mentioned, you were humble enough to understand that you needed to further expand your learning. You needed to be humble enough to take advice and opinion from other people. And I love the creative meetups that you've set up. And I think that's a good incentive across the country. It's sort of taking me to my next question about the idea that, look, because you are now in a position, the vice president of the Youth Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I'm assuming it was quite challenging to get into that.
Yes.
Were there any moments where you were like, Ish, actually, I don't want to do this. It was quite tough to get into this position. It's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Maybe I shouldn't be in it. It's the wrong kind of lifestyle for me. I don't know if you can give us an idea of what you thought.
I think
it's tough, huh?
Yeah, man, it's been, because I think this is our third year, just being VP of Youth Chamber. Sorry, I hadn't actually even mentioned that it's through those creative meetups that by the time the elections of the Youth Chamber came, the past board had seen us, and they were now trying to, on the side, not just recruit this group, let them, it gets to a point where when you're in leadership, you're like, if I can just get those guys to replace us. So it was that type of context where they were lobbying us to actually be part of their elections, you know what I mean? Because they were already had our own movement.
Okay.
With the youth, and in the side where now also the Youth Chamber structure is structured inside the municipality. So we're almost like doing what they're supposed to do, but better.
Did they acknowledge that of you? Is that why you could say they headhunted you versus they thought you were like competing with them? I'm just trying to sort of get an idea if it was like an actual conscious decision for this municipality to say, we want these young guys to come over.
I think it's because remember, these are elections in a way, so the youth will vote. So by then we already had the youth, because the youth already knew us because of the creative meetups.
Fair.
So either way,
already, yeah.
And that's how I think also the team that became the national board, these were my colleagues that I was with before Youth Chamber. This is an African team, actually. During the elections, we didn't matter who's who. Yeah. We just want to make sure the whole team is part of this, because we knew we would work better together. But also the youth at that time needed leadership, a type of sacrificial leadership. Yeah. Learning how to sacrifice for people and not just yourself. That type of volunteering, sort of sacrificing.
Yeah. No, I'm happy. I love that, actually, the fact that you already had the influence, you already had the popular vote and opinion, and obviously these guys in the municipality are like, look, we need these guys to come in because they've already got the backing behind them. Did you ever want to walk away from the job? I don't know if that's something you've sort of given any thought. I don't know, maybe if it's gonna put you in a bad light, please don't answer, because I don't want them to think, hey, this guy, we put him in there, we elected him, now he wants to run away now.
Not really at all. I think that, of course, not quit. I think there've been days where, like, if I could just, just rest a bit, maybe that could be one. But I don't think quitting, because the journey has been so very. It's like a roller coaster, you know what I mean? But this is the one you wanted to be on.
Okay.
Yes, so you paid for it. So I think it made perfect sense. But also it looks like it's telling us to be great leaders. I think there's a lot of optimistic in the country about just the leadership of Youth Chamber. When all of us, are past 35, we're all going to be with the elders now. So I think there's a lot of optimism there. But also the way just how we maneuver in the politics as young people in the country, no one has ever seen that. So we've already broken a lot of barriers when it comes to how young people are supposed to maneuver. And we are not state funded. So we have been using our own money to run this organization, because the constitution actually, I guess how it's actually stated is the fact that we're membership based. So it's the members that are supposed to pay membership, and then through that operation, that's how people are supposed to then be paid allowances, right? Okay. So, but because of the state of the youth didn't have money. So even though we had the political will from last year, we didn't want to make them pay, because we didn't see the actual, because how you deal with the youth has been sort of in a, especially, when if you're 30 in the country, I'm sure you've attended a lot of these youth forums where you're given food, you leave there optimistic about, ideas that you can actually implement. But, after a few weeks, you go back to depression. So we didn't want to also become that type of an organization where we make promises that we can't fulfill. Even worse, me, with all of this political clout and all of this attention I'm getting, I'm still living in the neighborhood. Yeah. So these guys, they see me living here wearing suits. I can be meeting His Excellency the Prime Minister on the day, but in the evening I'll be coming back to sleep in the neighborhood. So I still have to be realistic with the things that I speak about and say. And platforms, not just about trying to please anyone per se. That's why, because also we're not state funded, we don't have any reason to be with government if government is doing anything wrong or we feel like, so us with the conditions that I hear, what are the niches that I hear, you know what I mean, that we can now bring to the future.
Okay. No, it sounds like you've got quite a bit of a unique sort of position with, one, representing the community and the youth, and two, obviously interacting with the sort of higher levels or sort of government and the politic levels. That actually being said, now, look, because of your position, because I love the fact that you've mentioned that you still live in a community, but you engage with different and potentially, should we just label it, more influential stakeholders. Now, because of the fact of your specific position and that people look to you to answers, are you able to give us an idea of how have you actually mentally, educationally, physically gone about preparing yourself for that responsibility? I know it's a bit of a vague question, but I'm curious if there's something you had to learn yourself, if there's a state of mind you've had to adopt just to be able to then obviously listen to people and obviously give responsible, clear answers and sort of, promise, so essentially practice what you preach. I don't know if there's something you've given any thought to that specifically.
I think it's simple. I think it's been neglected, of course, in this century we're here. And I think just doing something for the goodness of it. I think it's as simple as that. Yes, I think it's not just because it's good. There's justice in it. So because of the philosophy background, I always come back to that because it's the actual anchor of my character and. Because normally, it gets to a point where I'm on live TV where I can't be really thinking. I have to be spot on all the time. This is live TV. So most of the information is already with my subconscious and with wisdom, depending on the authors that you actually read and believe is true at the time. How you categorize information in your subconscious. It is my mind is a brilliant tool, I think. What's been 9 years of reading, and of course the reading has always been around philosophy, religion, and science. Yes. So that's my triangle. That's where I actually spend most of my time doing. And of course, I think later on, I think initially you had asked me, besides the actual thing that I do with business and just politics, I'm also into music and fashion. Okay. So I love design. I also love poetry. So I make hip hop music, and that's how, because I've always seen that it's always going to be really interesting with my political will and stuff. And then I'm able to, do a nice hip hop project that actually can influence the public as well. So those are the type of things that I knew now that I'm trying to bring to the table, just individual. Also just making sure, because of those, how extensive those streams are, I have to retrace myself back to where I'm at and move accordingly.
No, that sounds quite interesting. I like the fact that you're acknowledging that it's the passion, And obviously the passion that you have is sort of coming forward with how you engage and how you interact with the members that you sort of engage with. When you said the fact that you write poetry, I don't know, instantly what came to mind was a member of parliament from Uganda. I don't know if you're familiar with Bobby Wine.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was thinking, I was like, there we've got a Swazi Bobby Wine just coming up there. So I'm really happy I'm really happy to see that, you're sort of like going in that sort of step. But it's interesting to see, obviously, the idea that you need to have a sort of artistic sort of like passion and interest, and then you sort of are linking that to obviously the idea of promoting the goodness ideology and philosophy to sort of promote the youth and the economy. That's great. Just my final question with regards to this initial segment, it's the idea that, okay, look, you've gone through various steps. You've been interacting with different sort of industries. You've got lots of passions. You're constantly learning. You're constantly educating yourself. Do you have any advice of what you would potentially tell or encourage somebody that wants to become a national representative in youth? What advice would you tell them? What advice would you give them in terms of these are the steps you need to follow if you want to get into this particular business? And how would you go about sort of getting your foot in the door, as the expression goes?
First of all, you have to start your own business. Starting your own business, okay. You don't really need money. You have to be a good kid at home to ask just for around maybe 1,000 malangeni to do your market research, because you're probably going to need more money when you now actually start the business, but you need to prove that there's actual market for what you actually do. So with that, you're probably going to need a bit of money just to make sure you look presentable when you're going around asking this information. The 1,000 rand is just to prepare for you to look like you're already running while you're not, just to get the information from the potential clients or potential business partners. And then you have to help other young people do the same while you're doing that, and understand your local politics. I think I have ambition when it comes to politics in the country. I'm looking at the next 2028 elections. I'm looking at it's not something that I had even thought about before, but I'm looking at the actual job at hand. I'm looking at I've met all of the officials in government now. I'm familiar with them, and I'm thinking that the youth here who can do a lot of, also if they can be given they should take the space during the elections. So we'll be really also trying to influence that type of dynamics in the 2028 elections and the next one, so that at least we have a group of young dynamic MPs, because I think the checkmate is in Parliament actually, not outside. So we have to make sure that because it's through how we can formulate these policies that would enhance the average citizens to make sure that they're thriving whatever geographical area they are in the country.
Okay. So if I understand you, what you're saying, so the basic idea is fundamentally start a business. By you starting a business, you've developed the necessary tools, for example, to work on market research, proof of your experience, understanding local politics, working on networking. Would you say education is more important, for example, like financial education, financial literacy? Do you need a degree, for example? Is that important in terms of like business, or can you just start a business and then everything else will sort of fall into place? Yeah. In the economic sort of space of Eswatini, does the size of the enterprise matter more so than the fact that you are initially setting up an enterprise of some sort? I'm just trying to think to what extent the country would benefit from having more people working, regardless of the scale, if it's a small or big scale business, versus the fact that you want a couple of massive organizations that are going to hire, for example, 1,000 people versus my small business, which only hires about 4 or 5 people. Does that make a difference? Or I don't know if you've given that any thought, sorry.
Yes. I think it's more of creating a balance between the two. Because initially the MSMEs in Africa are the one that are actually sustaining most of these African economies.
Yes.
So those are the small guys, us really. And then you have the big corporates. Most of them come through FDI.
Okay.
So you create a balance. Usually, I think that's not the sort of actual development we're looking for as Africans, but it's based on the type of relations we have right now with with the other races as well. I think I'm big on I'm a Pan-Africanist myself. I'm big on Dr. Amos Wilson. Our issue right now is psychology. Not really. There's never been resources. It's always been our psychology to how we view ourselves as African and how we view the other races as well. Because it looks like to motivate a whole race, there has to be people that you're trying to compete with. It cannot be that people cannot just be competitive on their own. So as much as I think the ideal state of the world, how I feel, I think God created is for humanity to actually get along. I'm not going to be, not saying I'm not cognizant of that, but I think as different races, we still have different journeys.
Yes.
We have to go for get to that level. So I think Africans, we can't be, we're not in the moon, or we are not part of the airspace, so I don't even know what we're talking about. So we have to retrace our steps. We have to retrace our steps and start to think much more clearly our journey towards that particular context.
Okay. No, I like that. Sorry, I'm thinking that far ahead now. I've got this grand ambitions of like trying to see if we can get some sort of African representatives in space at some point, just to say a little corner of the moon is ours, and then at least that way the rest of the world is like, hey, these guys are pushing hard, and then that way at least it sort of motivates the youth to say, yeah, we can go there, let's go, yeah.
To me, I've even thinking that we should have so much just infrastructure and resources that we can go there once and keep recreating with different rockets that we've been there.
Yes,
they can't disprove it. We will be creating our own history.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for us to be intentional with African development. I think the best thing about, the gene, that's why I didn't agree with the statement that at one point I wanted to quit, because the reason why the gene has been soothing is because of, as well, of course, I've gained so much experience and I get a chance to attend different AU youth forums, African Union forums. So I've tested my intelligence with different African youth from different countries, people that have PhD, people that have studied in great universities, but still the philosophy and what we're doing here in Swaziland stands big. We are the ones that I will end up going to meet the president in the State House when I'm in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah.
So we and remember at the same time we are not funded.
Yes.
When we go to these meetings, we are the least. We are the ones from Swaziland with the least money in our pockets.
Yes.
We just came here because the state funded this trip.
Yes.
And our president, she's a lady, Sakile. So I think we have a way of seeing gender equality.
Okay.
We are big on supporting women also manifest their goals. We have a great leader who we respect. She's I think we're probably all born the same year. So she's our. If we say we're old, she's old as well. So I think that also proves. I think also that also has been something that has shocked the leadership structure in the country as well, because a lot of times you find that she will go into meetings, especially when we were still starting up. She will go to meetings that we were not there, because sometimes there were meetings before they knew us. They will say they want only the president, right?
Yeah.
And then she will be the only one going there. She will come back and be crying like, "Hey, these people didn't give me an ear." They're talking. So now what had happened is that I started as a VP.
Yeah.
I started to get past the meetings.
Okay, I like that. Just sort of, hey, I'm escorting the president. Just get out of my way, please. I'm with her.
Yes, I'm the extra ticket. You guys should leave. So because and the dynamics of the group is that our head researcher Alan Hamosokwe, he's Zambian born in Swaziland, Eswatini. So and Sakile Seban's the president. She's Swati, but from Hlatikulu, not even town, right?
Yes.
And then me, I'm from Manzini, right?
Yes.
So even in the dynamics of the politics of the country, right? So I've also seen the dynamics of that. If she can be intimidated, but when I come through, I can come through on that cultural tip. It's okay.
Yeah.
And let it be explained, because now it has to be explained.
Yeah.
So those are the different dynamics that I know that we have used also strategically to get to the top of the politics.
Okay. No, I'm happy. There's a lot we can sort of dissect from what you've been saying with regards to that. I was going to go potentially explore different sort of sectors of your comments about the idea that is it more of a structural thing that the African continent is sort of being kept down? Is the competition a bit too hectic with regards to the external players from outside of the continent, sort of deliberately sort of trying to keep us down? But I don't think we need to go into too much of that because that's going to take a whole other segment of our conversation. You're right. There is elements of, I suppose you're right, that there is external competition that we need to use to our advantage to sort of say, compare ourselves to. I like the fact that you said that you've held your own against people that have been PhD qualified. You've sort of matched wits with them and you've sort of held your ground. And the fact that you've taken the initiative of going with your president and sort of attending these meetings and sort of saying, no, we present a unified front. You need to explain to us exactly your thinking because we're no longer going to accept that anymore as a state of normal being. And I love the fact that you're shaking things up. Look, it's sort of taking me to my next segment that I was hoping we could get more clarity on, this sort of idea of youth-led initiative, youth-led growth. Now, your organization is built on an idea that young people can and should be at the front of driving the economy. I suppose my initial thought to that particular statement is that in as much as obviously I agree with the idea that the youth should be leading growth, why do you think that's so critical for the country's future? And to link to that question is, why do you think across the continent there's been a big sort of push, expectation, sort of scrutiny, sort of narrative being pushed, promoted that says that the youth should be the ones to sort of be driving the change across the continent?
I think I had written somewhere in my notes the fact that I was thinking about it, that I think I've studied the men who created America, right? So that there are two groups, right? We have the early guys, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, the Commodore Vanderbilt. You had J.P. Morgan, the banker, and then you had Ford, right? And then the if you look at how at their age when they started their business, most of them were youth. They were under 35, right? And then let's come now look at the tech billionaires, right? Let's look at Elon Musk. Let's look at Jeff Bezos. Let's look at Facebook. Right?
Elon Musk's and Zuckerberg's.
So and let's look at how old were they when they started their first business? They were youth. So that, I just wanted to start with that sort of understanding that that's the reality, that it's real. The creativity and the innovation is with the young people, right? And then the youth are not just the future then, they're the future now, right? Yes. And when you have a high youth unemployment, it's an opportunity. Actually, it's more than a threat. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to actually change the dynamics of the economy, and bring new money into the economy as well. Because you always find there are people who have all money in the economy because they've been making money with how the economy was. Where now the youth can always be disruptive with how things are, right? Okay. And then we have the social political instability. If you look at our population, the youth is more in numbers. Yes. So definitely they were the catalyst of, I would say, banning the country. Whether they wanted to do it intentionally or they were mesmerized to do it. But it shows that there's power within them to distract or build. Okay. Right? It seems like, when you don't study the dynamics of the youth, even because, for example, in the country, 1.2 million, and the stats are saying that 800,000, 700,000 of those people are under 35. Yeah. It means that even who's supporting the dynamics of even consumption, right? Yes. We don't have those stats. Those stats can be easily accessible with the youth because they're on IT, they're on, it's easy to do business if the population is young. Yes. That's the reason.
Interesting idea. I like that.
Yes.
Sorry, forgive me. I cut you mid-flow because that was an interesting thought. I like that idea. Wow, that it's easier to do business when the population is young. Wow, that's the quote of the show. I hope you don't mind me using that.
Yes. And just to prove, you ask Youth Chamber, just, we're not state funded, we're not funded by anyone, but these are some of like the key sort of also initiatives that we've done the past 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So we were on a verge of creating a SACU Youth Business Council. So SACU is the Southern Custom Unions, right? Southern Custom Unions, which has a member state of 5 countries: Eswatini, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Lesotho, our neighbors. And because we're using the same currency and our logistics are manageable, we can be competitive with our pricing and our products in those countries. So it's a viable market, but the head of states are integrated on a regional perspective. There was no youth though on those talks, on those tables. So we're on the verge of actually creating one as the youth chambers from the region. And during Trade Fair, we'll be hosting our first event, and the Minister for Commerce will be sort of gracing the event as a keynote speaker. And also we'll be having the entrepreneurs from the 5 member states as well coming for that trade fair on the 3rd of September in the country. And then, of course, this year we also met officially the Prime Minister of the country in his private cabinet meeting there at his office in Babane. Interesting meeting. We're able to advocate and lobby on that high level, right? And we got also this year we signed an MOU with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, which is the one that is in charge of the municipalities in the country, because we saw that we don't want to deal with the politics of the different municipalities. Let's go to where the municipalities actually get their subvention from and agree with that person, so that when we go down, we're not talking back and forth. We just focus on development. And then we also launched our MSME Startup Toolkit. So we don't not only just do the training, we create our own material. So this is a material we created because when we entered Youth Chamber, I think last year before last, we discovered that a lot of youth are misinformed, or when even worse, they are not informed. And in fact, there's a state, there's a big red flag state in the country in the economics. It's called a NEET. It's neither in training, employment, or in training. So a lot of, I think 30 to 40% of the population of young people are in NEET. And meaning that's a bad state, because it says that these people are neither in training or employment. Right.
So that's quite a massive sort of proportion of the population that needs to sort of like be brought into the fold, actually. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So we created this MSME Startup Toolkit to fill that gap, because what we did with the toolkit is that we got the juices from all of the national documents that are part of the 5-year plan that we're in right now, and the different policies that have to do with youth development, and brought everything into one simple, no English document, 200 pages. And then we launched it with the Ministry of Commerce last year during Trade Fair. So it's not the first time we hosted the minister. Last time we hosted him during the trade fair when we were launching this toolkit. And interestingly, this toolkit in the forward, when you open the forward, the Prime Minister gave us the forward for the toolkit. So it is a national document.
No, I'm curious. So you've condensed the 5-year action plan set by the government into a document, into a sort of work tool that obviously the youth and the people can sort of access a lot easier. Why, one, have you essentially only kept it in English? Is there a specific reason why the document and the work tool is only in English, whereas Eswatini is obviously another language spoken in the country? And two, how have you actually gone about getting the fact that you've created this work tool and letting the rural populations become aware of the fact that you've created something that's designed to help them in the long run? I don't know if you've been able to give us any thought on that.
Yes, I want to start with the second one, because sales is even much more important.
Yes, please.
So because, as I told you, because it's only now that it's been really interesting that it's only even now that we, as a country, we start to take seriously the Decentralization Act.
Yes.
Which is the one that's supposed to take, in actual terms, political terms, is supposed to take power away from the national government to the actual micro government or mini government, which are the municipalities.
Yes.
Right. So, or not just that, the Inkundla, because that's where the MP, I want to use, because the municipalities are under Inkundla.
Yeah.
Let's make that clear. So the Manzini, so the structure moves from national to regional, right? So there's a regional, there are 4 regional administrators in the country for the 4 regions. They are appointed by His Majesty. Okay. And then you move down under the RA, that's where you have now the MPs, right?
Okay.
So meaning that the MPs now became our focal point, because we started to see it's okay. We have Ministry of Urban Housing now. We are good with almost all the CEOs of the 12 municipalities in the country. It's only this year that we're probably going to reach all of them. I think we just started with Mangayane, because also we're starting on the outskirts, because the corridor, we're more familiar with. The corridor, we've done most of our activities there.
Okay.
But now we're going to focus on the municipalities that are in the outskirts. I think we started with Mangayane last week Friday. We're going to Pips Peak, Goenya Steg,
Okay.
Just make sure that we cover all of them. But still, we haven't covered the whole thing, because remember, the municipality is just a section of Inkundla.
Yes.
So even now, so with the MP now, we're able to get to everyone now, because the MP will bring the whole constituency using the book topo, because the book topo represents each chiefdom.
Okay.
So if we're trying to meet the youth, in fact, we have established one chiefdom chapter just to test out the pilot, understand the dynamics of, because it's different type of development, regional development chiefdom. In fact, we created also another manual called I guess we just know the framework of city development.
Okay.
Because this only seems like it's a lot of people think it's a mystery of how city develop. And cities have been here for hundreds of years, and we have views as human beings to grow. So so there's this concept of different cities in different stages, and because of feasibility studies, but of course from the basic human settlement to a metropolis, right?
Yeah.
So depending on the level the city is, it will demand different services, and it will there will be opportunities for certain type of businesses.
Okay. Because of obviously the concentration of knowledge, the concentration of finances, because of the concentration of infrastructure.
Yes. So you can't.
Okay.
So we can't. So we can't meet a youth from Manzini and speak the same opportunity with the youth from Sitegi.
Yes, of
even
course.
though they're under the same structure, municipalities.
But if you look,
so if you look at the different municipalities, if you look at their IDPs, right, they have different local economic strategies. That document, that LED document, is the one that ends up guiding our structure there and how to maneuver in the municipality. But we do more than that.
Okay.
That will just reveal the different industries and opportunities that the municipalities has made research that people are making money from in that municipality. So it's a good place to start in.
Okay. No
so
problem.
Yes, so that's in the municipalities. But on the Dingula side, we use the Dingula ministry to get to the MPs and use the MPs, lobby the MPs to bring the youth where we want. And then I think the ultimate stage to make sure that the youth from the municipality and the youth for Ingunda, we have one Ingunda sort of chapter structure, but the chairperson from the city, representing the youth from the city, can sit on the Ingunda structure so that they also understand the dynamics. But also now we have one structure per MP.
Okay. In my ignorance, I'll be honest with you, I think I took it for granted the amount of work that needs to go into, for example, getting information across to the small pockets of the populations. There's a lot of work that goes into the fact that you need to liaise with your local MP or your local sort of municipality leader, and then they take that information and take it to a higher body and higher and so on and so forth. And it's a whole process. I think, you're right. In my ignorance, I was sort of thinking, these guys should jump in a car. They basically just have plasters of billboards and saying, hey, there's this work tool. Everybody just log on and just do your business. I took that for granted. That's my own ignorance. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you.
Yes, and just to add on it is the fact that you have to understand that that's why we are who we are right now, because of how we maneuver in the politics.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
These are the different dynamics that you have to be aware of, because
of course.
a lot of people won't be like me per se, where, they just want to do things the right way and through integrity and still, you know what I mean? So, and how the politics, when it's time for elections, to become a very hazardous, a situation in the country, because people are looking for bread, you know what I mean? That position, you know what I mean? People will fight for it. So when they are now dealing with his constituency or her constituency, we have to make them aware so that they understand that you're not coming there to take the position, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, because what's going to happen is that because of our political influence and allegiance to the top of cabinet, when we upload pictures that were in your area and you were not there, you look like you're not doing your job.
Right. So it's okay. So it's about the perception, the optics about like what you are doing as an organization versus what the other municipalities are doing or not doing. Interesting.
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking, Bonke, now you've made an interesting comment about the fact that it's important for you to do things proper and right. Why is that such a motivation for you? Why do you want to represent the people? Why do you want to be, quote unquote, good? I mean, I'm sure somebody in your position could have just gone up the chain, looked after themselves, prioritized themselves, their family, got as much money as possible, moved out of the community, and obviously got yourself a nice, rich house. Why would you say it's important for you to be, how can I say this, to be seen as doing the right thing, to focus on the concept of Pan-Africanism? Why is that an important drive for you, if you don't mind me sort of just going off topic now?
Yes, very good question. I can't deny it. Africa has been through a lot. It's been through a lot. It's a very, even means like it's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
So Africa has been a lot. So,
No, forgive me. We'll come back to that. I think I just randomly threw that at you because, you got me thinking. I was inspired listening to you. And when you said that comment that you're trying to obviously do your best to do it the proper, legit way, you were going out of your way to obviously, interact with so many different people that have got so many different opportunity levels. And the fact that you are trying to not go the route of just being a selfish, financially driven, motivated person. I just found that refreshing, and I just wanted to give you, a bit of energy from me to you and say that's inspiring, my friend. The fact that you've actively thought about that's cool, man. But no, look, let's change tact a bit. So I didn't want to chuck that into you and catch you off guard.
I understand.
No, forgive me. I think what I was hoping to sort of like change gears to was the idea of, okay, look, we've discussed the idea that the youth are quite important in the society in Africa. They're the ones going to be making the change. They're the ones that are going to be sort of influencing policy going forward. And I love the fact that the country is opening up from the government down, that they're opening up the idea of like making it accessible for the youth and other people to engage with the stakeholders and make it a bit easier. And your organization is making it even more easier for their ideas and stuff to go across. So that's great. Look, it's the idea of digital innovation and opportunity now I wanted to discuss.
Yes.
Now, look, for young entrepreneurs, digital tools are going to be seen as a great equalizer. I love the fact that Africa in general has been able to move from especially like telecommunications. We've gone from having essentially no telephone wires, cables across the continent to like a huge saturation of mobile devices that allow us to connect with each other. And obviously these digital innovations are changing the economies worldwide. But what does that look like in Eswatini? Are you able to give us an idea of how technology is promoting growth? Is it just cultural growth? Is it more business growth? I don't know if you have any ideas of how the country is able to actively adopt technological measures to promote and develop itself. Things like AI, fintech, drones, renewables, all those sort of things.
Yes. In fact, the Youth Chamber has been one of the most innovative organizations in the country, because we have been using actually AI to create these documents.
Okay.
We were big. I think we started AI. I think we jumped on it. I think a couple of years ago. So our head researcher is big on it. I think we are just about to launch an AI chatbot, MSME policy. So the same there's an MSME policy which sort of has sort of like guides, has all the juices and incentive for MSME to maneuver probably in the country. So we created a chatbot that sort of the youth can interact with. Probably we'll launch it with the ministry, but it should be a very interactive way for you to start dabbling in policy. And if we're able to get them caught up in policy, we can start, engaging them in more policy so that at least they get, because this is where, I feel like as most of young people in the African country, we missed the plot. The game is a policy, not anywhere else. Yeah. Policy. So the more we find ways of youth consuming policy, just strategic ways, the better, I think. So we're looking at that. And just to give you an idea, the team, we have had thinkers in the team. So how we sort of even view what we do is like pilot. It wouldn't matter the impact in the country. We're always looking at our country as a very good place to pilot activities, because you won't lose a lot of money because of how our logistical we are when it comes to us being a small country and very connected. So I think it's always good. I think I've always thought that this is some of the incentives that the government should be telling the world out there, that we are a good hub for startups. Okay.
Is it because you've seen it's a fertile ground because it gives the opportunity for the startups to build the infrastructure? Is that what you're sort of like looking at?
Yes, in test out in an actual economy, but run the business like a startup so that you can now leverage on regional integration, because if it works in Swaziland, it's probably going to work in all the other 5 member states. That's why SACCO integration is very important before we go to SADC. SADC is the ultimate plan, but I think we have to start with the 5 countries, try and manage the politics and the economies of these 5 countries. I think from then we can handle the 16 SADC countries, and then from then we can start helping the other Eastern guys, because we can't go up without financial muscle and political influence. We have to go, yes. But I think I believe, or at least my team believes, that in 10 years we can sort of find a way to coordinate Africa. Just coordinate, I think. That we can in 10 years, yes.
So obviously your organization is using the AI tools to sort of develop and make it easier for people to access information. I love the fact that you're creating the chatbot just to do that. Are you able to give us an idea of how Eswatini is doing with regards to even piloting things like fintech? We were talking about the idea of earlier it was a lot tougher for you to have digital sort of e-commerce platforms. Is that something we're doing? Are we building our own drones? Are we leading in terms of renewable energy across the continent, or even within the sort of SACCO sort of like sort of region? I don't know if you've got any ideas of that.
So let me start with energy. Yeah. So with energy, we've been importing, and I think 80% of our energy from Eskom, which is South African parastatal. Yeah. So now, because of we've been a good customer, so we haven't had the load shedding when they were having it. So it's only a couple of months back that it started. So anything is starting to be becoming a concern in the country. And I think they're trying to bring different investors in that sector. I think we have that anthracite coal mine, and the coal industry is declining. Actually, the market is declining. I think they were saying they were going to retrench some people at the biggest mine in the country. So exporting the coal is no longer going to be incentive. It's probably trying to bring the steel manufacturing company in the country. That would be a better option than trying to export the coal. So, and of course, there's a market opportunity for energy, local consumption. And of course, since South Africa is struggling, it means that all 5 member states are struggling. So it means that if you can set up a proper plant in Swaziland, you can probably export to all 5 member states and make a lot of money in energy. So that's why I was saying the same thing, that you don't, most of the time, if you're an investor, don't look at local consumption when it comes to Swaziland. Look at the strategic position of the stability, the fact that once the hierarchy agrees for the company, you can operate and you recoup your investment at that particular time based on its financial focused. I think the stability is there when it comes to your money being safe. And I think also you can be allowed to come with most of your executives to run your company, definitely. I think, of course, you should be willing to let go of some of procurement sort of services to MSMEs. I think if you're coming with that type of mindset as an investor, make perfect sense. But I think when it comes to energy, there's definitely, and then when it comes to ICT, definitely, I think I had mentioned the fact that we was part of 2 acts that were passed, because I always know that until I see the policy, I won't even ask about that particular even idea or even I won't even ask, because I know it's not in the plans. It's not even discussing.
Yeah.
So e-commerce platforms can work properly in the country.
Okay.
In fact, there's an incentive of anyone who can bring an e-commerce platform, or not just a platform, bring a gateway paying company to be in the country.
Oh, wow.
That's an incentive, because if you're able to bring a payment gateway company to establish in the country, the same thing that the companies, you can now sort of have a hub. ICT can have a hub in the country, because more apps can be enrolled, but also we have that regional integration, of course. Same thing I'm talking about, that the regional market becomes the actual market.
Okay.
And then the fintech, yes, I think I told you that the central bank recently just really they are ready to accept fintech banks.
Okay.
So in that space, definitely is there's already an enabling environment.
Yeah.
Might be the license fee, but that's for value. If you're trying to start something like that, you should have the money, I think. Okay. And then what else? And of course, I think when it comes to politically, I think it's just the ministry with the Senator Savannah Mazia. I think the ministry is on a sort of uphill. Okay. So it's going sort of skyrocketing up because she's really, she's been in the international space for quite some time. So she's just bringing some of the companies in the country. I know the Bonke was in the country working with some of the ICT ministry experts for the government in your hand, because also the government services, if people still have to, be in queue for driver's license, all these things that you pay for, with a monthly revenue, they can be paid online, even with company registration. So I think they'll be launching the app in probably end of this year or next year, but it should be that if it's, and one of the most interesting things that with ICT, there's this company called Jenny that's in the country, partnered with ESCOM. ESCOM is the regulator for the industry. So they partnered with ESCOM to place Wi-Fi at the Inkundla centers. Each MP has Inkundla center. I know some of them are not functionally working, because I think when they were riots, some of them were banned, or I don't know, there were issues with it. Yeah. But I know most of them are actually fully functional, and they do have the Wi-Fi. Okay. So we're also trying to take up. So you can communicate with youth from the rural areas through those community centers, those ones that they can access free Wi-Fi every day, right?
Have you noticed a shift in the capabilities of the youth being able to use smartphones, use the apps that, for example, like you said, the municipalities and the governments are trying to adopt measures of creating smart systems so that people can just do things online versus having to come into like the government home affairs offices where it could take ages and hours for you to basically get a stamp. I don't know if you've noticed a change in the youth and their dynamics with regards to that.
Yes, and I think with ICT, it's always going to be disruptive, whether the good way or the right way. So I think if you don't open up the space, you do always try to find money using ICT.
Okay.
So I think we are moving in the right direction. I can't even. The past 2 years we've been moving right, but of course, I think there's still this opportunity of actually working proper with Taiwan. I think we're bilateral, we are good partners, but I think economically we haven't aligned very well, because I think the low-hanging fruit is how do we make their biggest company come here to actually build the first building chips here, right? Because I think with the company here that building chips, the type of skills that the youth can have and gain, and having a factory like that in the region, I think will position the country very well, even when it comes to export as well. So I think in ICT, that particular country, because we're already, when it comes to head of states, we're already integrated. It's just a matter of the business community aligning properly. And, that's why, it's only, that's why I'm saying it's only the youth probably that also that sees this opportunity. So I think the more we also interact with the Taiwanese youth, we can, start to also meet probably some of the young people that are affiliated to these companies that are actually doing these things.
It's interesting you say that. I was thinking about that the other day, and I was sort of doing a bit of research, and from what I understand, one of the difficulties and maybe one of the reasons why we haven't got like a chips manufacturing plant, at least my understanding, is the fact that it's the lack of infrastructure in the country. So, for example, we need to have a stable electric grid. We need to have access to water that is able to sort of like help cool the plant down and sort of help with the chip design. I don't understand why there hasn't been more of a focus on bringing that Taiwanese expertise towards the country. But then there's a whole nother politics about the greater superpowers that are trying to compete with each other. The Americans have put in like a chip act that basically prevents chips from going to the rival countries. And then obviously it's a hotbed of Taiwan and the recognition of Eswatini recognizing Taiwan versus all the other countries in Africa which haven't. So I think there's a lot more politics with regards to that. But I love your thinking, the fact that you're right, that there is something that you're right. They should ideally be considering that, especially if they want to keep the fact that we're the only country in the continent that recognizes them. So you'd want to basically sweeten the pot, as you say, with that, man.
Yeah, so I think that particular, I think probably even trying to focus on that. Let's rather beef with the world.
Of course, yeah.
If we on that particular actually company coming here, than any other politics of them being not a part of China, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I think by the time because we don't even know how long this actual relationship will last. So I think we should be able to take advantage full of it. I think that particular company or that particular sector of the what they're doing there can be very, because there's a lot of stuff they're doing, with they have a revolving fund, you know what I mean? They have a lot of young people going to farming, a lot of stuff they're doing, even when to with the smart, agriculture, they're coming with it. But I think them as a country, if they are being honest with themselves, where they make money, revenue,
of course,
there's no type of company. They should be trying to make us leverage on that, other than any other thing they can actually make us participate in.
Well, I could argue and say maybe the reason they don't want to spread the technology is because of that fact, because that's their golden egg, if you understand me. That's obviously why they don't want to necessarily share the tech with anybody else, because if they do, then they're going to lose potential control. It's going to open them up to espionage and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, we're going a bit too far away with that. But it sort of brings me... No, but I love that you see, but this is the point. It's the point that, there's a lot of dynamics that we need to consider with regards to why people do this and why people don't do that.
Yes, very important. Very important.
Now, bringing it back to what we're discussing. Now, you mentioned the fact that there's an organization, I think it's called ESCOM, partnered with another company.
ESCOM, yes.
ESCOM partnered with a company to promote Wi-Fi installation. Are there any sort of local tech solutions that are being developed in the country, or is Eswatini predominantly consuming tech and material from outside? I don't know if you can list any other innovations. You mentioned, like, obviously agriculture is seeing like a bit of an increase in terms of smart upgrade. Anything else you can sort of give us an idea of what's happening?
Yes, there are a couple of companies that actually have come through. We have a company called Datamatics. It's in GIS. I mean, they won the Entrepreneur of the Year last year in the country, which is a big competition that I'm actually a judge in this year. Right?
Oh, great!
So, there's that company that I think there's another company that is into irrigation using drones.
Okay.
Yes. So I think they got a contract. I think there's only one farm that actually I think is the sugarcane company, which is a proper contract. So I think they are piloting that efficiency of using the normal irrigation and the drones.
Okay.
I think the drones are looking more efficient, so they should be following that contract there. I had through a close friend, and then there's a couple of delivery app company. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You can get your parcels from wherever you want through delivery.
Okay.
And of course, some of the some of the franchise do have their own app, so you can order and actually they can deliver the food. So we do have that innovation. I think the missing space as well is the banks, of course, most of the banks have their own banking apps.
Yeah.
So Swazi's are still using the apps, but of course they were still looking at fintech bank. But also there's something I wanted to mention that one of the things we're looking to fully establish is the SACCO, the Savings Credit Cooperative. So we're trying to create an African digital one, but we want to start in Swazi, and of course wanted to be an African sort of platform.
Yep.
But we I think that the German embassy are the ones that are big. In fact, the German country is the one that's big when it comes to cooperative, or even in the continent, they're the ones that are pushing that mandate. So they are also big in the country. You know, we have a cooperative commissioner who works closely with the Ministry of Commerce, and then there's a structure nationally for the cooperative. But coming from the commerce side, we just saw that structure of it starting small but growing towards a bank. But we'll something that we'll definitely we've done the market research. I think we also met the German colleagues that are working in the I think SADC region. And then, of course, we also we're just about to, I guess, just get registered so that we can start. And then the whole plan is really open it up to all youth. So long as you are a youth, you can enter the SAP, of course, to be different products for different youth, different age groups. You know what I mean? Yeah. And of course, I think on its own, it's supposed to enhance the average Swazi financial literacy on its own, that entity. Okay. And of course, not just teach, but also people should be able to save and start their business, because it should be now the platform that the youth is much more convenient coming there to ask for money to start your business than going to the commercial banks. That's what we're trying to create, because the funding thing will always be an issue when it comes to Africa. So until we create our own systems and we can't rely on anyone else, because and these ideas that youth are coming up with, some of them should be funded, but you find that the banks will be reluctant, especially the commercial ones.
Yeah, of course.
So so I think the SACCO, and because we want to do it digital, that's why I'm bringing it up now, because the way we want to do it is that not only are you going to be able to monitor your account, but you should be able to monitor the SACCO itself, so that you can see if we have 100 million here, right?
Yeah.
Very important. Transparency, I think, will be the key. That's why it goes back to the integrity thing, because of how we are in the position to set it up. Everyone will trust that their money will be safe.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, yes. Transparency, I like that. No, that's fine. No, that's actually great. Thank you very much for that. I think it's interesting because, what I've noticed quite interesting about, like, when we ever have conversations with different people and stuff, is the idea that in as much as we might have a structure with regards to the questions I had planned, a lot of the topics and a lot of the flow of the conversation is sort of incorporated different elements of things that are like 5 pages ahead. So I'm not going to necessarily focus too much on the politics, because you have sort of given us a very good flavor and understanding of what's happening. You've highlighted the fact that, yes, the government is actually aware of the fact that the youth are a significant player in the game, and that they need to create avenues of opportunity for the youth to sort of grow and develop. You've highlighted some of the challenges. For example, it's transport, for example, is one of the things. We're trying to get people to move in and around the country within the region, so we need to work on the transport. You've highlighted some of the things, for example, like you're making it accessible for people to get information from your municipalities, your government, so that they could go online, they can get all the stuff that they need to know to make things easier for themselves. I think what I was hoping you can give us a bit of an understanding about, one of the things I find quite fascinating about the African continent is the fact that we are very, how can I say this? We're very respectful to the hierarchy of age. So, for example, my elders, I give them a lot more deference, I give them a lot more respect with regards to how I discuss things, how I talk to them, and vice versa, them to me because of my age. Can you give us an idea of how the cultural norms have impacted the rate of development in the country? I don't know if that's something you've been able to sort of give any thought of. How is it that the youth engaging with the elder population has benefited or been to the detriment of the development of the country? Has it slowed down because of our interaction with the elder people? Has it sped up? I don't know if that's something you've sort of given any thought to.
Yes. Very interestingly, normally in our it's just in our normal family traditional cultures that the man, whether young or old, will meet on their own.
Yeah.
In their own sort of cocoon, which was called a sangwen.
Yeah.
And then the ladies also meet on their own. So I think as soon as we started to live modern and how we build our houses and how the nuclear family came on board and the extended family started to disappear, that sort of things started to change in its own dynamic way.
Okay.
Right now, I think we are in a better place, because I think one of the things we used to mention in the youth is that you have to know your environment.
Yes.
So I think that's the sort of baseline. If you know your environment, in the country, different dynamics, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Let me just make a couple of examples.
Yeah, please.
So if I have a certain way, for example, how I address CEOs, from ministers, from MPs, the respect that you probably are trying to receive back from the person is based on that particular approach.
Are you talking? Are you making reference to, like, for example, how you professionally address yourself versus how you culturally humble yourself in front of other people? I'm just trying to understand the difference.
There's a way that I've seen that when people are wearing the traditional regalia as sort of maneuver, and I've seen it a way when I'm always on formal suits.
Yeah.
So normally it's business time.
Business time. That's your uniform, huh?
Yes, normally it's business time. So normally, even if it's an older person, what we're talking about is sophisticated and complicated. So you must be a scholar, you must be intellectual, you must be a director of somewhere. Like what we're talking about, if we're able to agree and do it, might just create an impact towards our young people. So because I'm always in those type of dialogues, whether you're old or young, you have to be competent.
Right.
Yes. So with the competency thing, that even an older person, it might come through, of course, egotistic that they're old or they've been here for quite some time.
Okay.
But if I'm gonna understand during you'll be part of, even worse, if you're gonna be part of the panel, the Q&A will come through. I will ask you a question in front of all your colleagues.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So that it's understandably, you might be young, but we understand politics.
Yeah.
So as you say, it ends up being, who is this person actually? Who's me? I wouldn't know how they speak of me when my name is being raised. But definitely, one of the things I will be saying is the fact that when it's time for questions, I'll give you the hardest question, not intentionally, but just to also, I have to. Oh, do you really know your job?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Competent. Are you competent to do it?
Yes, I have to, and not just that. Very, this question is what we want to know in your position.
Yeah.
So because of how we have built our competency around different people in politics, I think by the time you meet me, whether you're old or young, you have a perspective. So the same thing with the youth. You have to grow your credibility, and you don't have to meet everyone.
Yeah.
It's this minister that you meet privately, how you address him, the type of things you ask for. Yeah. For an example, who are not funded, I know almost all the CEOs, whether private or of course, we're also members of business. YCCIE was actually the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
So we're members there. So we are really familiar with the CEOs of the big companies and the CEOs of the parastatals and just anyone else. So because of how we have maneuvered we're a unique group of young people that anyone else who's young has never been in this position before, right?
Yeah.
So people end up wondering, how can you really advise us, man?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who do you think we are? How do we get to even see you as a minister? How do we even get here? Do we have cars? How do we get here? It's raining, but we are not well.
You got the bus.
We end up looking like magicians or some sort, right? because these guys don't. I'm sure at this point they've seen because our names are, and I'm sure we have been screened so many times. The type of we've went to. I mean, every year I'll go to a couple of settings where His Majesty the King is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So my name is been on high protocol. So I'm sure that I've been screened so many times, and I'm sure my bank accounts are even checked. People know we don't have money.
Yeah. No, you have to be vetted, especially if you're going to be interacting with those guys. You can't just be some random off the street. So I can see from a security perspective, obviously, there's that.
Yes. So people don't know that. People know that we haven't got here because of me. That's why I'm saying that and I'm saying this just to also the youth that will listen to the interview, because a lot of young people are thinking that, hey, I'm frustrated because I don't have money to start this. Yeah. But I've already asked them, why don't you ask yourself, how did you chamber get to there when you didn't have no one funding them, right?
No, that's fine. It's interesting you mentioned the idea of the formal suits versus traditional attire, and how obviously, essentially, your formal suit is your a symbol, an outward sort of looking symbol to people to say, look, this guy is dressed in a certain way, so we're going to expect him to engage with us in a certain way. Is that different from, like, if somebody were to be presented to you in traditional attire? Would you sort of like, would the way you interact with those people be different? Would you be a lot more relaxed? Would you be a lot more sort of like open to the fact that, this guy might just basically be rambling? He might be rambling on about a general idea versus giving me facts and figures and statistics to back him up. I don't know if there's a difference between traditional versus formal.
I know how much effort it takes to wear a suit, so I know how much effort it takes to wear a job and here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the efforts of both activities, and I'm looking at if the person is serious about. I think the general regalia, because most of the time when I've worn them, it was a jovial sort of context.
Okay.
Most of the time when I wear them, it's a jovial context. Like I went to Inkwana, I went to Mtimba, all the traditional ceremonies that are whether family oriented or national, coming from national.
Yeah.
Which in fact, I went to Lesotho a couple of times when I was still in high school. So I've had that experience as well, right? Okay. So, but when I'm wearing a suit, and I've seen it also with other people in context of the country, that it's like we become more professional, right? All of a sudden,
your mindset changes because of what you're wearing.
Yes, because also subconsciously, because of normally if you average, you ask a Swazi, anytime they're wearing the traditional regalia, it's because of a ceremony, not really that they will, unless, of course, because there are people in the context of the real family and just government that to them, their image has always been this. They have to appear like this, like traditional regalia all the time. There are people like that. By the way, I have never seen you wearing a suit. Never. Anytime I've seen you is a machobo. Whether it's a high-profile meeting or not, a machobo. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there are people that they have that image, and maybe sometimes that image is what sustains them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I can never say, even in English, like I can never say anything against that. I think it's probably more interesting wearing the regalia outside the country than inside the country. I would think, because I've seen impacts outside the country that we have a unique culture, and we have kept our tradition intact for the longest time than most African countries. You know, even when we were in Zimbabwe just 2 months back, there was during the forum that we're in I think on the day, I'm not sure, there's a day around, or in July now, August. There's a day around maybe June. Is it June or May? That's African Youth Day. Okay,
I think it might be sort of May. I can't remember, but somewhere around there.
Yes, I think it's end of May, around 20-something May. Yeah. So on that day, the whole theme was African regalia. So everyone came through on their regalia. I think, of course, I mean, I'm a designer. I design something for myself.
Yeah.
But the other colleagues were wearing the actual traditional regalia fully. I think also that the country is a beautiful culture and stuff, but I saw how much attention we were getting because of our our culture, how
attire,
we also,
course,
just, yes.
No, that's great.
That was that.
No, I like that idea. So it's the idea of imagery. So you mentioned, obviously, if somebody in a higher authority wears the traditional clothing, well, they can do that because their position is already solidified. Versus the up and coming, it's the idea of maintaining and presenting a professional sort of like outward appearance to sort of give credibility to yourself, to sort of indicate that, yeah, I'm dressing in a particular way because my mindset is set in a particular way, and when you address me and you engage with me, I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
When I'm in a higher position, I can walk around in tackies, t-shirt, shorts, not even worry because I'm set. There was a meme I saw the other day about billionaires being able to be in a position where they can just walk around however they want because they're set. They don't need to worry. It's the young, hungry ones that need to sort of present themselves in a different way. Look, I think just sort of finishing off with this particular section of the politics and the playing field, I think one of the things I'm always curious about is the idea of the policies that governments have put in place to sort of promote or to hinder entrepreneurs. If there was one particular policy that you were able to sort of influence, to scrap or to boost, in terms of promoting youth-led businesses, what would it be, and why would it be specifically that policy you'd want to change or even like to give more power to?
Yes, so I think we have to strengthen our CEP.
Okay.
CEA is called the Citizen Economic Empowerment Act.
Citizen Economic Empowerment Act. Okay.
Yes, so it's the act. I think the youth chamber is part of the council. The council is made up of different industry players.
Okay.
Right. That are originally Eswatini.
Okay.
Not just when it comes to IT, but actually Swazi. Right?
Okay.
So that particular act, it will go to the different industries and see even how FDI is supposed to come through and how the MSME is supposed to help, get into the supplier sort of database of that anchor company, and let's have the training for the MSME. Let them know how to actually be part of your value chain.
Okay.
So that's what this is. That's what the CEA is looking at. It's under the Ministry of Commerce.
Okay.
It's headed by the chairperson is the owner of the director of OK Foods, Mr. Lincoln Motsa.
Okay.
So he does a sort of years with other who are part of that sort of committee, and then that is already the act was passed. We already have a committee. We're just now finalizing the regulations around it because the regulation will talk about enforcement as well.
Oh, okay. So it's like a work in progress, and you're trying to give that more authority.
Yes, that I think it's already been prioritized, but I think it's the one also that will create incentives for I think a lot of young people as well in different sectors. I think there will be different sectors in different industries that will be closed off from foreigners.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's more like a protectionist measure to ensure that there's a lack of foreign influence versus trying to promote the local sort of population. No, I like that. That's that's a good initiative. That's a good incentive.
Yes, but it's more of creating the balance because that's what they're trying to do as well. Because I think there hasn't been a balance for the longest time. You find that the FDI will just corrode the narrative in the economy. So I think now it's just trying to make sure there's regulation, but also the MSMEs can actually benefit. And then I think when it comes to, this is just on a business perspective, when it comes to policy, for our young people, our youth ministry has been also, they are, they're trying, but, it's not enough. We still need them to do more, you know what I mean?
Of course.
I think the youth bill is something that also has been a low-hanging fruit. I think it's something that I've been advocating. I know UNFPA is trying to work on it and conclude it. Hopefully, will be done, this year. Because without that bill, it makes the National Youth Council not autonomous.
Yeah.
So, and it ends up being just another parastatal serving. It can't just be serving government.
Yeah.
Or it has to be criticized if it's a youth. It belongs to the youth. It has to be critiqued. We have to be able to choose our own CEO to a certain perspective. If we have a youth bill, and that's if we have a proper youth bill, I'm sure part of the agenda we have as youth chamber will be encompassed around youth. We can be able to help youth council's mandate much more broader, because we're big on structure. We're big on making sure that youth chamber sits in that sort of structure even when we're gone, so that people are not questioning where positioning we are. Okay. We work closely with the youth council, because youth council focuses on the broader youth when it comes to his holistic life, you know what I mean, socially and financially, but we're more on the financial side. Okay. So now they don't really have to focus on financial side. They can now just assist youth chamber make youth chamber do their mandate.
Okay. No, it sort of brings me, actually, funny enough, you're talking about the idea of getting more autonomy, encouraging more local support versus the foreigners, obviously implementing and designing sort of like financial assistance programs that could help the sort of entrepreneurs. It nicely ties into what I was going to sort of try and focus on next, if you don't mind. It's the idea of the support networks and systems we have in place, the funding, the skills sort of sets that we have as a country. Now, okay, with regards to, for example, the support mechanisms, financial aid, mentorship, training, how is your organization actively helping young business people here? And what would you identify as some of the biggest gaps that you sort of need to try and close off? This is more specifically your organization versus obviously the wider sort of like government sort of country sort of led programs.
Yes, to us, I think we are big on understanding business principles, before you even start operating. So we're big on market research before getting a loan. Yeah. I think we have seen how much the national, there's a organization that is responsible for the disbursements of youth funds. When it comes to entrepreneurship, but they've been struggling with repayment for the loans, because you find that the young person will get the money to other stuff, or he's not really passionate about what he's doing. And you have to make sure that you are sure before you give the person money. Yeah. So we've been the ones that are advocating for that part of make sure the person has done market research, make sure they've been in the industry for at least understanding what's happening there for quite some time before they're given money. And of course, funding, I think we need, of course, being members of business, Eswatini gives us more leverage when it comes to the mentorship. I think there's a program I'm trying to design with them so that at least we can attach our members to the guys that are experts in the industry, so have been in the industry for quite some time. Okay. So we're trying to leverage our then, of course, in the Ministry of Commerce, we work closely with the ministry. As you know, the trade fair is coming. It's a big day for us in the ministry. So they've been supportive. The minister, just to be clear, has been really supportive of our initiative. Yeah. And I think it's the financial literacy. I think the SACU is the solution to the financial literacy, because we don't want to teach them, we want to teach them in action. So the SACU is a perfect teaching tool for the youth to understand financial literacy, and just making sure we can actually put it in practice. And then, of course, there's lack of grants in the country. There are no grants for youth in the country. Actually, none.
Interesting.
The only grants that are here are just national grants, but because they are in the constituency, in fact, it's just they are politicized, and also they are not spread accordingly, appropriately in the community, to a point where, for example, each constituency, meaning each MP, gets 3 million a year as a grant for the community to develop. But you find that because the constituency will involve schools, hospitals, and other things, the school will just apply for the grant to add more blocks.
Wow. That budget, that grant of 3 million given to each municipality, that's from the government.
It's not municipality, it's each constituency.
Forgive me, each constituency. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, remember that 59, meaning there's 3 million times 59 every year.
And they have to spread that 3 million across so many different sort of sectors of their particular constituency.
Yes, so what needs to happen is that, because remember the MP is there for 5 years.
Yeah.
So if you calculate 3 times 5 is what, 18?
Yes.
So what is 18 million, 5 years? So they can plan properly. If we're intentional with development, this money can be used appropriately, but also split it amongst the different demographic groups in the community. So you can have one for the women, maybe say a million, then the youth can have 1 million, then they have the other guys 1 million. That the youth can just compete for 1 million amongst themselves. It ends up being intentional like that. So I think that's what's missing from the money. It's just national money that the MP can just decide. This project can be 1.6 million, but it's just 10 people. You know what I mean?
If you don't mind me asking, is this emalangeni or is this dollars that we're talking about? I'm just trying to think, because literally 3 million emalangeni, I mean, across one constituency which has so many different sort of like interests. That's wow. That some might argue and say that's not necessarily quite a lot. That's a big gap to sort of like try and close off. Actually, wow.
Yes, but I'm looking like this money comes every year, though.
Fair. Okay, you're right. Yeah, it's going to be set in stone. It's going to come every year. Fair. So it's how you budget, I suppose. That's obviously going to make a big impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The fact that right now the impact, it's there, but it's not in the economy.
Okay.
Someone just got a truck. The truck got subcontracted at the res, at the sugar cane, but it's just him making money personally. But there's no actual manufacturing. There's no product. There's no actual. You know what I mean? That's why maybe because it's the money that when with his message he talks about this man that you guys are given 3 million. What have you done with that money?
Yeah, fair. Yeah, it's like where can you account for what you spent? Yeah.
Yes, you know what I mean? Because now you guys are, be complaining, there's no opportunities, but everyone has 3 million. Each MP has 3 million, and you guys have voted for this person there.
Yeah.
How can you communicate with him to give you the money? Why are you complaining?
Yeah.
Right. So, but the money, that's why he has a point. The money is there. Just that, we have to now go inside the Ministry of Tinkundla, because they're the one in charge of the money.
Yeah. See
the Tinkundla Act. Look at the actual. That's why the youth, if we don't understand policy, we're not doing anything. So that's why to us, it's always been trying to make them see the actual money. The money is in policy, not you trying to work the ground.
Yeah.
You can work the ground, but the ground is much more smooth if already the policies aligned to what you're doing on the ground.
Okay. No, that's quite important, that. That being said, okay, so you obviously deal with quite a number of different things. Your organization sort of like assists and sort of trains. It's the training and the education programs I'm quite interested in. You mentioned obviously the idea of educating the youth in policy, because obviously if they understand policy, they can obviously challenge the authorities, which could then obviously need to prove and back themselves up, because then they need to explain, yeah, you're right. We got given this budget. We haven't given it to you, but because you don't understand why you haven't got it, then you can't argue. I'm just curious, is it like a push at the moment under your organization, under different bodies within the government, to sort of like implement training and education programs for the youth, just to prepare them for today and tomorrow's economy? We've touched on digital training, but I don't know if you can sort of give us an idea of actual on the ground bodies that are like in charge of training, so that people can say, oh, I know that place, let me go and sign up so I can get trained from them.
Yeah, a couple of them. I think I had mentioned RSTP. They have incubation there, the Rare Science Technology Park. They have incubation facility there. They can host, I think, maximum 50 entrepreneurs a year. Okay. And then the SEDCO is a government company. They're the ones that are hosting the Entrepreneur of the Year competition in partnership with FNP, so it makes sense. And then they have estates for rentals across the 4 regions, but also across most of the cities in the country. So people can find rental space, and remember, Cisco also provides business plans, all the other things that in the pyramid. There's also FinClude that also does training. You know what I mean? And also the different business service providers, whether those are providing micro loans, but also whether in different sectors or in agriculture. NAMBOARD, which deals with, which is the marketing board controlling the gate when it comes to export and import in agriculture. Yes, they do host training for their farmers that are actually selling to them. So you have different parastatals that are playing a role, but also there are private sector companies that are also playing a role, but also directly to their customer base or potential clients.
Okay. No, thank you for that. That's quite a lot of different sort of like organizations that I'm sure our listeners will be able to sort of get information on. I think just finishing off this particular segment, it's the idea of, look, we've discussed the idea of funding, and that's obviously going to be a big challenge. But relating to funding, the accessibility of investors. Now, that can be seen as a potential bottleneck for any startup across the world to sort of get going. Now, can you give us a rough idea of what the investor landscape is like in Eswatini? Do you think Eswatini is even attractive enough for international investors, maybe sort of local billionaires that are potentially interested in youth-led enterprises? Do you think we have a fresh sort of fertile ground to attract those people? And if not, what do you think specifically needs to change to attract these people to come in and invest in the country?
No, we don't have investors for youth startups in the country. That's a big problem. And I think politically, I think whoever is going to come through and even with philanthropy money, just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I think from then, whether without the high-ups or what, he will have the youth's heart. And I think because these people, as we say, they are the ones that are shaking the economy and moving the needle. Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever thing that person want to do when it comes to business, I think he will have full support and, just political stability when it comes to their investment. I think politically it makes sense, just investing in young people. I think that's how you create stability also in the country, when you make sure these people are busy and, people can dream and go achieve whatever they want to achieve. I think that's the most important thing for young people. And also, and also just being honest, it's in we are honest with young people. We don't, as I say, we're always honest with also, as I'm going to go back to the same community. So I have to be real and honest even when I'm on TV. So we try to be honest. If we are not an organization that will give you money, but definitely we can assist you get the money, especially after we went through, help you go through your business plan and all that. So I think that's what makes us unique in the space as well. But I think there's no investors for youth in the country. You find that government will partner, with do FDI, and then government will provide, will spend their own money, even 200 million to create 12 space for the investor. You know what I mean, and other tax benefits for the investor. So you find that it will be more centered around if this factory can employ those people. You know what I mean, and just create livelihood. But of course, I know that the Ministry of Commerce has always been insisting the fact that it's not just about the low-paying jobs inside the factory. It's the fact that can these SWAs that are working in the factory understand the dynamics of a factory working? Yeah. You know what I mean? And then can we run our own factory after 10 years, 5 years? Of course. It's not just about... so I think there's also that type of thing that we need our people that are working in different companies to think of. A lot of SWAs is not just the youth. I think a lot of SWAs is, you find that he works for Conco. You know what I mean? He's getting paid a lot of money, the Coca-Cola, but when you find that he's just going to only work for Congo his whole life and die with actual expertise, you know what I mean?
Without passing it on,
In fact, one of the biggest problems that's being faced by another business association dealing with the adults or the older generation is the fact that most of their members that were making a lot of money in the past 10 to 20 years, when they die, the business dies with them.
Interesting. There's no succession plans.
Yes. That's why in Swaziland, if you notice, a lot of businesses that you knew when you're growing up disappeared.
Yes.
Whether it was a truck or a bus or a transportation business. So those things were raised to us as well. That shows the fact that there's no mentorship between the youth and the older people. Okay. I think I wanted to bring out the savings and credit cooperative point to these investors, because I think the only investor we need is an investor that will help us set up this SACCO.
Okay.
Yes, because then even then, there's this clear repayment plan structure if you create the SACCO.
Okay.
And he can, whether he wants his money back now after 3-5 years, or he wants to be a long-term partner, but the SACCO is a credible project. Because once we have the system working with the power or the political will of youth chamber, we can get we can get everyone on board to endorse the project so that the project is a success when it comes to on-the-ground implementation.
Okay.
But that's why the SACCO
it's quite an important initiative, yeah.
Yes, I was saying the SACCO is a very important structure, which is going to be a system that we use.
Yeah.
That will be a funding mechanism for the startups, grants, and especially, since the youth will be a member in the SACCO, we already have we know where you live, we know you. It will be easy for us to give you money without all the, the type of barriers that the commercial banks will have.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We just have to agree, me and the guys that are on the board, agree if this business idea makes sense, not anyone else. So I think that gives us a lot of power, and I think me and the team have built enough credibility in the system, whether in government or private sector, just nationally to be, not to be questioned why we can handle such a big structure like this.
Okay. I think just finishing off on that particular segment, the idea of the investors. Now, you're talking about implementing the SACCO sort of like cooperative structure, which is going to obviously help with the funding programs. I'm just curious as to when you said that there's no youth investors, is that there's no money specifically for the youth, just finish and clear, or is that because people haven't prioritized the youth as such in the country? I'm just more curious about that.
I think the money is there. I think the money is there. I think probably it's priority.
Okay, priority.
But I think also, if you look at it properly, it becomes an opportunity for particular investors to come through and see the dynamics. Oh, these people can't see because these people actually have the power, and they actually do have the power. So we are having a lot of meetings with different people who are just coming to the country and they just want to work with the youth. And wherever they will go, someone will tell them, you find the youth champ. That's what we get from people when they meet us. Hey, someone referred them to us because we seem we're in a position to make them come up with realistic, information for them to maneuver properly in the kingdom.
Okay. No, that's great. Funny enough you say that. That's literally setting us nicely up for my next question. It's the idea that, look, we've discussed on some of the challenges. We've sort of given our listeners a broad sort of idea of obviously what's happening. There's quite a number of challenges. There's also quite a lot of positives that we need to take forward. We've got a young youth population. They are hungry. They are wanting to work, wanting to learn. With the idea of like the future vision and leadership, if we go ahead 5 years, now where do you envision Eswatini's youth entrepreneur sort of scene in the region? Are we catching up? Are we leading the region? Are we still finding our feet? And more importantly, where would you say your organization, the Youth Chamber, is going to have the biggest impact in facilitating promotion, catching up, or sort of like propping up? I don't know if you can give us a hand.
We have the NDP, which is the National Development Plan, which started when the new politicians were voted into parliament. It's been for, I think, 2 years. And then you have industrial plans or policy, but part of the reason why we've been receiving, low economic growth the past decade is because of our plans have been short. So you find that every 5 years, because we change politicians, the plans will change. Every minister that comes through with their own plans for the ministry, for the sector. So that also has been a big barrier, big problem for the country. So now the country is working on a 30-year plan, right? So the plan will be broken into 3 different sort of steps, 0 to 5 years, you know what I mean? Even the consultants, the group of consultants are, I would say, semi-young people, adults, and, they're in their swazis. Some of them, have have good credentials and credibility, which is great. And they haven't really worked on anything in the country before. These are ones that are where I think the Prime Minister was scouting them across the board in just worldwide, basically.
Okay.
But they have good credentials, I think. Fortunately for me, I was part of that engagement. I was with I think they had called all the CEOs for the parastatals, so I was part of that meeting as well. That, I guess, consultations for the plan. The plan, I guess now they were just trying to show us that there's a plan like this being developed by the Prime Minister's office, but they just want to make sure that we can contribute to it. So that plan is solid, but, they're also trying to, it's a strategy, so it's only when the strategy is at work that we'll see its, of course, impact.
Yeah.
But the guys that we're presenting were optimistic about the strategy they're using and the type of, mathematics and just information they're using to come up to these conclusions that they're reaching.
Okay.
But the whole gist about it is that the fact that these different sectors that the country is trying to create this economic growth in, I guess it's around FDI, getting anchor company that also sustain the industry and create the vibrancy that's in that particular sector. Okay. And then, of course, the MSME, helping that anchor company, but of course through, even with farming, contract farming, sort of this random farming. Yeah. So those are the things. So that 30-year plan is the plan that I think all of the other plans are trying to align to that plan, or that plan is trying to align to. So there has to be sort of a match of the policies that we have and policies that have to be developed. You know what I mean? So, and because our members are MSMEs, so these different plans that are coming up, I'm also being drafted into a committee that deals with big plans in the country. When there's a big company or big thing that is, whether it's a contract or what's happening, there's a committee nationally that's being constructed. So because of Business Eswatini, Business Eswatini is also trying a lot to make sure that we are organized, and there's different committees when it comes to the business community in the country. So because we are the youth representative, we as the national board, the individuals end up sitting in different boards in the different committees, so that we are in the table and these things are being discussed and we can advocate for the right thing. So that's why I was saying that the way we are positioned now, because also we're not linear to any specific sector, while in all the sectors. So we end up being in a unique position than any youth or any other person in the country, because we get to know what's happening in all the sectors.
Okay. And by that logic, you'll also be able to influence and sort of put your voice and opinions across, so that you can help shape the future of the country as well. That's great. No, I like that. Look, okay, you're a vice president. You have got a lot of responsibility. You've got a lot of people coming to you. You've got a lot of work that you're trying to do. I chucked in a random sort of like little, observation about your character, that you're trying to obviously be as credible. You're trying to be as positive, Pan-Africanist, a good sort of like representative for the community. Now, what would you say is the hardest leadership lesson that you've had to learn personally? I don't know if that's something that you've come across, something you've experienced, something you realize you need to know. I don't know if there's anything you can sort of like self-reflect and say, ish, yeah, that's a lesson I've learned, and this is what I'm going to try not to do going forward.
Yes, I realize that leadership needs more sacrifice and putting people before your needs.
Okay.
And it needs less of the leader being given money than any other sort of career. I think that I've seen. I think the leader can manage his lifestyle appropriately. Doesn't have to be the richest. Okay. It doesn't have to. The leader doesn't have to be the one that has the most money in the community. In fact, it can be the one with the least money in the community. Of course, I don't wanna seem like that's the part personally I wanna take. I think I'm an entrepreneur, so I think the incentive of making sure, because I think as an African as well, the financial situation, that's why now I was thinking about the question actually you had asked me earlier on about actually what makes me even do this. I think we have to catch up. So I think we have to catch up to other races. I think we are probably 100 years. I think it's 500 years, but I think there's realistically it's 100 years that we're behind. But I think in history terms, I think it's 500 years that we're behind from the other races. I think these 100 years, it's not really 100 years. We have to do everything in 100 years. But I think in 10, 20 years, we can create a lot of impact that the next generation can just have to exist and be healthy and work. Yeah. And that's the only way then we can catch up, I think. But creating the foundation now, probably 10 to 20 years. And I want to be part of those Africans that actually change the ship, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay. That's very humble and that's very inspirational, to be honest. I think obviously listening to you talking and listening to the fact that you know what you're talking about. You know, you've got the growth, you've got the community sort of like mindset to sort of try and ensure that we as a country, we as a continent are not going to be caught with our pants down, as the expression goes. We're going to obviously be leading the charge. And yeah, I'm like you. I'm optimistic that, we're going to make a plan. But that being said, look, there's a lot of challenges we've identified, a lot of things that the youth need. Yes. But if you could directly speak to every young person in the country, if they're thinking about starting something small, something big, what would you want to tell them in terms of either pursuing, in terms of either gaining training or just as a sort of motivation to them? I don't know if you've got any sort of like life lessons or anything you want to tell the youth today and say, listen, young man, young woman, please do this.
I created this slogan back of my head when I was talking to the high school. I think I was talking to because I attended the National Career Expo.
Okay.
So only the grade 11 and 12s were there, but the whole country, right? So I was telling them the fact that entrepreneurship is not an option; it's the only way out.
Is the only way out? Wow.
So if we still have young people in Africa who still are looking for jobs, and the type of jobs we're supposed to be looking for, let's be informed. Which jobs are we supposed to be looking for? And if you want to be an employee, go get a master's or a PhD, because the degree is not competitive anymore. So you have to stay in school for 12 years. Don't even come out before 12 years. Do what you're supposed to do, but make sure that that industry you're trying to penetrate is actually going to be viable after that 10 years you spend there.
Yeah.
So how do you show then that what you're studying for 10 years will be relevant when you finish? So it means that as you're studying, you are attending different forums that are aligned with that industry. Get to meet the CEOs that are running companies that in the future you might be looking for jobs in.
Yeah.
Ask them what can you add based on what you're studying? Are you going the right path? Be informed by the industry players, not just your lecturers. Make sure you request from your lecturers to bring industry expertise to teach some of make sure your lecturer is really in contact with the industry. Okay. Make sure, do the market research, speak to the different industry players or trying to maneuver, finding your way in the industry. I know in economics there's competitive advantage and competitive strategy. So the competitive strategy is for the industry that you are trying to operate in. You have to understand you need to have a strategy for the industry.
Right.
And then there's competitive advantage that deals now with your company operating in the industry. So when you're an employer, those are the dynamics that you have to know. What are you really doing in this industry? What's the niche in this industry? Who are the biggest players? What are they doing? And then, so it's different type of learning for the employer or the entrepreneur. So on the ground learning than textbook learning. Of course, I won't run away from books like Adam Smith, Wealth of Nation.
Okay.
I won't run away from for the black young men or women. I won't run away from Amos Wilson. I mean, there's a very interesting book called Black Power, right?
Okay.
Just the dynamics of understanding what really power is, because I think a lot of people, especially black people, haven't conceptualized what power is, in the dynamic of power and how power maneuvers through organizations and individuals, and how it can be sustained through organizations, right? Okay. So, and that's why, as Africans, the reason why we're behind is not that we don't have resources, it's because we haven't built the institutions that will sustain our development.
Okay. And you attribute that a lot to like the mindset that obviously is sort of like that's rampant throughout the population at the moment.
Yes, but as I'm saying, we are the youth in Swaziland that have stopped the complaining to the government about initiatives. Stop blaming, stop pointing fingers. We're the youth that with nothing we started to conceptualize. Yeah. How then are we gonna get out of this maze? You know what I mean? Without being labeled as rebels, or without even if you were wrong, how are you able to bring out your opinion without injuring the other person?
Of course, yeah.
But still, voicing out your opinion. How do we create dialogues? We were told that it's hard to meet the ministers. They're inaccessible. You can't meet them. They're always with the king. That's what we heard. Yeah. And we discovered it's not true, because sometimes you find, for example, let me make an example. The week we just from Tuesday, the 13th and the 14th, I was attending the Agriculture, Business and Investment Forum. So initially, I wasn't part of the invitation. I saw the post on LinkedIn. I'm like, the minister's doing this thing. So I was like, hey, it looks like it's very important. And I could see from the poster, there's no location, meaning that people are privately invited.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is an agriculture business. It means for a youth chamber.
Yeah.
I can't tell the youth that they didn't invite us. That's not enough. Then I was like, okay, because and just to also, I'm trying to disprove this also myth about people not being accessible, right?
Yeah.
So I then called PS for the ministry. And I requested to be part of that engagement, and I told them, that I'm coming tomorrow.
I don't care if you say no, I'm going to be at the door, so open up for me, please. Let's not make a scene.
Yes, and then he told me, send the text, I think I was saying, okay, yeah. He just spoke to the organizers, and I was there early, and then I was just arrived the whole, because the Prime Minister was there as a keynote speaker for the event. I was there on time. So it's the same. That exactly thing explains my character and how I've been maneuvering that particular context.
Okay.
That I'm not gonna go on social media and then write that we're not invited, even though we know that the ministry knows about us.
Yeah.
They could have invited us through the right channels and stuff.
Yeah.
But how we went to solve the solution. We went to solve the problem, not try and make this thing a theater. No.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Bonke, if you don't mind me saying, the fact is you're talking about the idea of sort of like bursting the bubble about people not being able to contact other people. Look, you've got the networks, you've got the potential contacts of those people that make the change in the systems.
Yes.
You've got that sort of, can I say, black book with all the people's numbers and stuff. You have that.
Yes.
How would you basically? How can you say that to somebody who, for example, doesn't even know about SACU, doesn't even know about SETCU, doesn't even know about these microloan providers, that they're literally just starting up and they're literally trying to get their foot in the game. I get from your perspective, you've got that, you've done that, your foot is in the door, but how can you advise somebody that doesn't have that sort of level of engagement with these individuals yet?
Yes, the good thing about it, I'm not calling this person as Bonke Motsa trying to enter there. I'm calling this person as the vice president of the Youth Chamber of Commerce.
But that's got a lot of weight behind it already. So
that's why the youth. If you're gonna go there as an individual and not be part of Youth Chamber and think that you can move the needle, won't happen. We are moving as a community or membership base. I mean, we have gotten to a point where we've made our membership, I think, 500 annually, because to us it wasn't about money. It's about just to make sure that the guys have access to us. Not even about the money, because the youth are still calling me at 12 p.m. at night without paying the membership. I'll still help them as well.
Fair.
So I think, and we are accessible. You know what I told you, I still go back to the same neighborhood.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I did most of my schooling at Salesian primary and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people know me before even Youth Chamber. Yeah. Just on a street cred level, me just being from my neighborhood, going to that school, even before the intelligence, I would have been, especially because Manzini is the central, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
if you went to this school and you're from Manzini, a lot of these people that are interested in stuff will get to know you. Okay. And let's start there. And because now of how big we are, people can catch me on social media. My number is almost like a public number.
You might want to find a way of keeping that hidden, man, unless, of course, you're happy that people phone you at 2:00 in the morning.
But I had to do it now because I feel at this point, you know, I'm not married, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
I think the youth can get more access to me at this point before, you know, all those things start. I think those are the type of leaders that the youth needs right now in the country, not people that will prioritize any other context than the work of the youth.
Okay.
So I think we're accessible. We are also trying to, you know, we have a structure that in the municipality, we set up chapters that we have a chairperson there in this team that if you're a youth from Babane, there's no reason to try get hold of Bonke.
Yeah.
Try get hold of your Babane chapter chair. He stays in Babane. He should be in Babane. That's why we are trying to decentralize our service using the chapters.
Yeah.
So I think we're accessible. And of course, if you don't know about the Youth Chamber of Commerce, I start to wonder how proactive you are in your ideas and your plans.
That is fair. That is very, very fair. Yeah. No, thank you for that one. Yeah. A lot of the people that I've spoken to previously, one of the things that they love saying with regards to what advice they'd give people is like, look, you have to want to do this. You know, you have to want to be involved. You have to want to try and make a difference. You have to want to go out there and set up your business or whatever you're trying to, because if you don't, then you're right. How really hungry are you for this thing? And what you just said there is credible. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you. Just in closing, we've gone through quite a lot of like heavy stuff, and I'm really grateful the fact that we've had the opportunity to do that, because it's given me, at least me personally, a sort of rough idea of obviously what the state of the situation is like in Eswatini. Look, I'm in the diaspora, so obviously I do still have family, friends, and I've got like a big love for the country, and I want to see how much I can give back to it. But at least now I've sort of got a better idea of obviously what's at stake, what, sort of avenues we need to sort of like potentially look at. But look, let's do a complete 360 and finish off by talking about, this is what I like to call like the sort of little fun finishers. It's the idea of something completely unrelated to what we've been talking about. Now, you mentioned earlier on in the podcast that you're a fashionista. You're also like really big on your music and poems. Do you have any poems you've shared online that somebody can go and read and sort of like potentially like get inspired from? I don't know if you dabble in love poems. Are you political poems? I don't know if there's anything you can give us an idea of what poems you write about.
So initially, I've always wanted. So poetry really was like the foundation. So I was like, okay, I have to find a tool that I can constantly use to communicate with the youth, but without the youth though.
Okay.
Because now the youth, I've gotten the attention of the youth that I can, in that type of scenery.
Yeah.
But now how can I get to the guy there who can only be gotten through music though?
Yeah. Have you released any songs? Sorry, have you released any songs? Any on YouTube that we can sort of follow and link to this pod, to this show?
Yes. I have a YouTube channel because I'm using a different name for my music because of the same thing that I understand. I'm creating a different brand, and I have to find a way to concentrate what I'm doing on that perspective much more different from what I'm doing politically in business.
Okay.
So I'm using a name called Sibawu. It's a Venek name is SIBAWU. I think that's also I've also platform social media platforms on that particular name. So my YouTube also is Sibawu.
Sibawu is
official.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, SIBAWU. It's a name for a particular African fly that Normally, even me myself, I wouldn't say I've seen it physically, but through the narratives that you hear that it was here. That's what I liked about it. That the fact that you can't see it in action, but you can see the impact.
Okay, no problem. We'll definitely have a look. I'll attach some of the YouTube videos and I'll have a listen and link them to this. My second question. Look, you've got an unlimited budget. You've got millions, billions, whatever malangeni or pounds or dollars you want to have in your pocket. Now, if you could design a crazy, completely out of this world project, what do you think it would be? Would you basically give the country unlimited free debonair pizzas for life? Would you want to go and build a skate park on the top of the government buildings? Would you want to build like a spaceship to go to the moon? I don't know what ideas you sort of have to give an audience a bit of a rough idea of your quirky side, please.
Oh, yes. I'm really big when it comes to art, you know what I mean? I think... just to give you a bit of information, I'm really big on when it comes to the Egyptian, mysticism.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm really aware of the fact that particular country, even in its physical creation, actual symbolism, it's a divine sort of image, right?
Okay.
So from the way they constructed the plan, their city nationally. To now physical architecture.
Yeah.
From physical planning the country nationally to the provinces, to what the provinces actually mean, to how you build the interconnection between the cities. Everything was connected from a fertile sort of point of view, like perspective, like from it's an image.
Yeah, so you're talking about the fact that the layout of the city is symbolic of a particular sort of mystical, supernatural sort of feel. Right, I'm with you. Yeah.
So it means that we can plan everything to the T, and it have the spiritual allegiance or spiritual power in its creation. That when our citizens are maneuvering around, it's not just a physical movement; it also has a spiritual connotation.
Is that just one big city, or you're going to talk about it changing every single city and town in the country?
Yes, but to me, I was looking at it just as a race, black people.
Okay.
It's Africa. How then do we turn Africa to this spiritual portal that everything makes sense here? Everything we can connect. So human beings are always aspiring because we have seen that we are the mini world is actually the bigger world.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So we have seen that human beings are that. So we're always the biggest. I think our biggest achievement has always been trying to conceptualize our connection to that bigger world.
Yes.
Yes. So I think that, but the Egyptians, that's why they were not just big when it comes to the pyramids. Yeah. The reason they were big is because they conceptualized their country on that high spiritual level.
Okay.
And then go down, then how do you execute it? They did it in execution as well. So to me, it's like that.
I love that. That's attaining a sort of supernatural power, not even supernatural, it's sort of promoting a spiritual awareness that will sort of amplify the ability and the sort of conscious mind of the people that sort of live in that space and in that area.
Yes.
Yes. No, my friend, this is speaking a lot to your character and personality. I've got a lot from just from that one little last thing you told me about, man. I can see you're a really good guy, bro. I really wish all the positive energies coming to you to keep pushing, man.
Yeah.
No, look, I think for my final question, look, okay. The world loves movies. We love our big blockbuster movies, So, okay, I'm a director, and I want to make a movie that's going to be a hit across the world about you and your life. Now, here's the question. Which actor would you like to play you, and what would the name of the movie be? What sort of story are we going to make with regards to the life story of Bonke Motsa? Fashionista, lyrical mastermind, VP of the Youth Chamber of Commerce of Industry, young man that's pushing the nation and the states of black people and the world forward.
Yeah. Well, I will. Because it's almost like yeah. Because it's like I have to choose two people to play different roles.
Okay, well, you can have multiple people. There's no limit on this, huh? We can have like a young Motsa, and then we can have an older one. You know.
I want Leonardo DiCaprio should play
Leo,
the business Bonke.
Okay.
Right?
The business Bonke. Okay.
And because business, you have to be smooth always on the tongue, always business. I think it's and then I want Denzel to play the political Bonke. Right. And then when I was young, I was saying Chris Rock.
Okay, because he's charismatic. You know, I get that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Chris Rock to play the young Bonke, the up and coming, the hungry one.
Yes, and then of course I think because I have a spiritual side which is clear, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Of course, I will pick Morgan Freeman. That's for sure.
Morgan Freeman to reflect your spiritual side.
Yes.
No problem.
Yes.
Now, I like the fact that out of all these guys, you threw Leonardo DiCaprio to reflect your business persona.
Yes.
Were you inspired by a certain Wolf of Wall Street? I'm just trying to think.
I think him per se, it seems like because you see with actors you I have to see the fact that it might be you can act, but it looks like you actually have a real life, like you actually living, you have a real life.
So you've got a connection to the character kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like he seems like he can also do it in real life.
Yeah.
That's to me like I need all these guys that I've actually picked.
Yeah.
They look like I can also bring them to dinner. We can actually have a good conversation. Yes.
To be honest, I think you could do, you know, all these different. I like the fact that you've sort of broken them down according to, like, you know, particular personalities of yourself. Spiritual, Freeman, business, DiCaprio, political, Denzel, and the young, hungry, funny kind of guy, Chris Rock. No, those are brilliant sort of little divisions, man. Like I said, my friend, you've given me quite a lot with regards to who you are and obviously what kind of guy you are, bro. No, I wish you all the best, though. And no, man.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for watching me. Yes, thank you very much, Chris.
No, man, Bonke, thank you. Thank you, bro. Thank you. You've given me a lot to think about. And yeah, please, keep me in your thoughts, keep in your mind, bro. And you take care, bro. Go and enjoy your weekend, my friend. Go relax, sir. Take care, my brother. Take care. Ciao, man. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap on another exciting episode of Grassroots to Gains, our Southern Hustle. I think this has been one of the most illuminating and most important episodes of our entire series so far, guys. We've been very fortunate to have a conversation with an innovator, with an individual who not only has experience with regards to running their own sort of startup or side hustle, but more importantly, they are one of the leading faces with regards to trying to make a difference in the narrative that is going on across the country. They are one of the inspirations that is trying their best to have an influence and impact the people around them. They are essentially trying their best to bring to light all the different means and ways of the community sort of taking a step forward and trying to essentially come out from whatever sort of hole that people think that they might be in. One of the themes I think that's quite pertinent behind this conversation is Bonke has highlighted the power of just showing up. not just for yourself, but for your community. Our guest is living proof that leadership just doesn't come from waiting for permission. It comes from stepping forward, even when the path is not clear, and being humble enough to understand that you need to learn as you go, all the time. Amongst some of the topics we discussed, we explored the role of youth-led growth and how that is shaping the nation's future. And I think one thing really stood out. The future isn't something we wait for, guys. It's something we build. And here in Eswatini, that means embracing innovation. It means fighting for access to opportunities. And it means you need to be willing to take risks, even when the odds are not perfect. We also dug into some of the lived realities that people are sort of going through in the country. The specific lack of funding and investment, and his ideas of what donors, what interested-minded people might need to do to sort of help change that particular lived experience. The need for stronger support systems to be implemented and sort of promoted across the country. How the balance between political landscapes and business growth have both a positive and a negative impact on those people that are living in the area. I think what made this conversation even more powerful is that Bonke wasn't just pointing out all of the challenges. He was giving us a couple of inspiring and positive ways of finding means and methods to work through those challenges. He's highlighted a couple of relevant sort of organizations and bodies that you, the listener, can get in touch with. SEDCO, NAMBOARD, his own sort of youth chamber and of commerce and industry sort of organization. The banks, the libraries, your municipalities, your MPs. There's so many points of reference and so many points of contact that you shouldn't necessarily think that you are not in a position to be able to contact them. But once again, this is something that if you're listening right now and you've got an idea that you've been sitting on, or you're somebody that wants to see a change in your community, please take today's episode as your nudge to start. Because as Bonke has highlighted, is you don't need a perfect business plan to make a difference. You just need the drive, the humility to learn, and the courage to keep going, guys. One of the fascinating aspects of Bonke's personality is that the philosophy that he has in mind with regards to promoting the development of youth, the spirit of Pan-Africanism across the continent, and just the desire to see the upliftment of the African continent as a whole. I think for me that has been one of the most fascinating aspects of him as an individual that I think we need to take into heart and sort of try and emulate as much as possible. There are challenges. Those are not going away unless we're actually willing to make a difference. Speak to somebody, contact somebody, do something to change the narrative, because if we don't, nothing's going to change and we're still going to get even more left behind, guys. Times are changing and times are changing fast. And one thing I really admire the most about the African people is their resilience, it's their drive, it's their determination to keep pushing forward, and regardless of all the odds, is to keep finding means and ways of overcoming their challenges. And yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it. Tag us, message us, and let's keep telling the stories of those people turning small beginnings into something powerful. So, until next time, please keep building, please keep dreaming, and remember, big things, well, they normally start small, and they start with you. Grassroots to gains, a Southern hustle. Join us next time, and take care, everybody.